last thing I want to talk about in this series is server actions. This is still an alpha within the newest version of Next 13. However, I think it will become more important, so I think it's something we should look into covering. Let's say you had a form, and with it, like similar to our previous example, we were using a Firestore database on the back end, and we wanted to create an object or a document within that database. To do that, the traditional React way would be we would create that object right in the front end, and we would push it from the client. However, what if we want to push it from the server, for whatever reason that might be in the time? We couldn't do that before, but now we can with React server components. So to enable this for now, this might change by the time you're watching this, we can go into our next config, and I already wrote it out. We need to create an experimental object and set server actions to true. So I'm going to save that. You will see something like this in your console when you do that. That's good. What we're going to do now, let me just refresh this. Once this loads, perfect. We're going to create a component, and we're going to look into how we can actually use these server actions. So I'm just going to quickly create what might be the most boring form in the entire world. I'm just going to create a form with an action that calls on a function called submit, and the only input within the form is a submit button. I'm going to come up here, and what I'm going to create is we're going to create our first server action. So I'm going to do constant submit and just return an asynchronous error function. It has to be asynchronous. And within it, since we want to call this on the server, I'm going to add the use server directive at the top, and then I'm going to do a console.log of server action. And let's see what happens. And we have an error. I'm just going to actually move this right in here. And that should be fine. No, perfect. Okay, so we have a function that is not going to run the server. If I click submit, once this action is called, you will see every time we do that, this is being logged to the console. Perfect. So we now know that this code, although being called client side, is running on the server. Lastly, one other thing I quickly want to go over is how the built-in font support now works. Within Next.js 13, we can self-host our fonts, which means we don't have to reach out to Google every time we want to get our font, which will save us on our web vitals. If we go up here, they already did it with the interfont. I'm going to do it with a font called Anybody, that is a Google font that you can use. So perfect, I automatically imported it up here. I'm going to do a similar thing with subsets, and I am just going to get the Latin subset. And I am going to go down here into our body's class name, and I'm going to change this to anybody.classname. Once I save that, you'll see the font change. Perfect. If you do your fonts like this, it will really be a speed improvement, and it won't clog up the main thread. Okay, well that's really all for now. If you've gone through this whole series and you've understood everything so far, you're definitely ahead of 95% of people that are learning Next.js, and especially if they're learning Next.js 13 for the first time. I hope that this saved you a lot of time in your learning and saved you from having to read the documentation like I have over the last month or so since the app directory became stable. So if you found this helpful, please like and subscribe, and there will be more content coming out like this in the very near future. And leave a comment below as well. If this was helpful, genuinely let me know. I really want to know how I can make these better for everyone, and I'm trying to put out some content that's a little bit different and doesn't go over things such as what a variable is, and will make a more intermediate to advanced developer's life a lot easier. So yeah, that's all. Thank you. Have a good one, and I'll see you in the next one.